Okay. Hey, okay, so Tony in Seattle. You'll be getting a tour of Office Nomads momentarily, but first an intro from Jen. Jen in Chicago. Hi, Jen.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Jen with Dayhouse Co-working, opening 6-ish, 8-ish weeks in the north suburbs of Chicago, Highland Park. I have definitely entered the red zone, as you put it, Tony. I'm feeling that. We just launched our first early member campaign last week, and it's a private campaign meant for just our earliest supporters. So that launched last Thursday. Immediately got a lot of inquiries about it, but everyone wants to see the space first, which is understandable. Problem is I can't let anybody in the space yet. So I've been emailing and texting my landlord saying, yo, what's the status on this? And, he's got a million projects going on, so he hasn't gotten back to me yet. So now my architect is also emailing and texting her. So hopefully between the two of us, if I have to get my broker involved, I will. Hopefully he will get back to me and I can start getting people in there.
The landlord's not letting you visit the space?
No, I can visit the space, but just due to some permit issues, we don't really want
other people
right now due to some of the situations that are going on. Hopefully that'll get, I know I'm being vague, sorry, but yeah.
So. There are certain poltergeists that are haunting the building, and we don't want the poltergeists to scare the customers until they've been exorcised.
I mean, I was actually going to put the poltergeist on my list of amenities. So, but if you think I shouldn't, then I'll listen to you, Tony.
At Dayhouse, you'll never work alone.
Love it. And I did get one person saying I was going to offer year-long. I've got the monthly deal. I've got the year-long deal. And I've already gotten a question of, well, what if I sign up for the year-long and then I get there and I don't like it? Can I get my money back? And I was just like, oh, God, it's starting. So
there's a Twitter account called Clients from Hell. I feel like we need a co-working equivalent, like the worst questions.
And I wanted to be like, no, that's not how this works. But I did a whole bunch of research in the Google group and a few other groups I'm a part of. And it just seems like if somebody is that unhappy and is going to cause trouble, then it's just like, okay, fine, you can go minus any discounts that you've been given. So you're paid up until this point. I'm going to charge you as though you were paying month to month and a retail rate.
That's the correct answer, ultimately. Although, like when they first ask it, it's kind of also what they're really saying is like, I would like for you to prove to me that you are for real. Like when I hear that, I'm hearing like, like that's a chance to say, hey, I'm committed to doing this thing and it's going to be really important and special and I'm hell-bent on it. And if you do this, I'm going to be utterly committed. It's literally going to be my job to make you happy. So,
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, there's some risk involved in this, but I'm not, that's why this is an early bird thing. So, are you willing to take a small risk to support something that could have a huge benefit to you and to the community around you?
I'm so glad to hear you say that because that is pretty much what I said to her.
Yeah, get it.
Like, shoulder, tell me what to say.
You got it. No, you're doing it. So wait, so what's the response like so far? How far along are you in terms of interest or commitment?
Nobody's signed up yet. I got like maybe 5 inquiries that day and the day after. Just people saying, hey, I'd like to see the space is really what people are saying.
Gotcha. Okay.
So as soon as I do that, I was thinking, do I want to turn this into an event? But then again, the space is so raw right now. I don't think that it lends itself well to an event. Like there's literally holes in the floor right now with like pipes.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a one-on-one approach might be best for right now.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think it's reasonable for people not to commit until they've seen the space. Mm-hmm. But once they see the space, we should start seeing commitments. That's when people should be able to look around and smell the air and look at your energy as you're looking around, telling them what's going to go where, and that should give them all that they need. And I'm a big fan of doing events in unfinished construction sites, because it really creates a shared sense of camaraderie. That there's this thing that I can help to finish this, and once it's already done, it's hard for somebody to do something other than consume it. And so during this time when it does have a lot of work to do, I think it can inspire some sense of you're at the beginning of something, and the mess is exciting because we're going to see, it's going to be that much cooler when that person comes to your launch party and they talk to somebody at the launch party and like, man, I remember when this place was a mess. Yeah. Jen really did it. But whatever. Let's just get people in the building any which way we can, whether it's one-on-one or group, and let's get those commitments going. So hopefully the landlord will play ball sooner than later. Cool. So do you have any burning questions aside from kind of trying to figure that out? Anything for the group for us to discuss?
I don't think so.
Okay. We're going to have plenty to talk about just by my little tour of the space we're in, but let's go to Justin and then Jaudia.
Hey, so Justin, Kernville Cowork. We started in about March. It's been a pretty good month. We're starting to kind of see a more natural flow of members and potential members come in. We've had in the past week 2 members join that I didn't know. I don't have any connections with them or anything, which in this small of a town is an oddity. And so that's really good to see that word of mouth is working. Our advertising's working. And so that part was really neat. Also had which was one of the avenues I was really trying to push with this, which is people who would normally come up to Kernville for maybe a couple days, to experience, because Kernville has a lot to offer in terms of outdoor recreation. Normally come up for the weekend, but maybe if they had a place to work, they'd come up for a lot longer. So we really wanted to try to cater to that community. And we had a lady come in on like a Thursday. She was camping all week and she needed somewhere to work for the day. Her husband was mountain biking, came all the way from Sherman Pass, which is about 6,000 feet higher than where we're at right now, and biked right into the Cowork. And then they walked their dog from the Cowork down to the river. It was really a neat thing. It was just a perfect case study of exactly what we're trying to do. And they loved it. They thought it was awesome. They're going to tell their friends. They're going to write a blog post. It's going to be pretty fun. So that was really fun. And I think since we last spoke, I'm now on the board. I'm on the board of directors for the Kernville Chamber of Commerce. So I'm actually pretty interested in the conversation that was mentioned in the email thread about a conversation about partnering with the Chamber of Commerce. Now that I've kind of got an even closer in there, it seems like a pretty interesting topic to me.
Awesome, Justin. Thanks for that, and excited to see what insights you can give us on the Chamber of Commerce conversation. So we'll have to make time for that as well. All right, cool. So we'll do. We'll go to Jaudia, and then Maurice on the phone, and Christy as well. But first, Jaudia.
Hi. Sorry I'm late. We were ending a meeting, so are we doing like introducing ourselves and updates? Yeah. Okay. So I'm Jaudia. I'm the director of operations at Launch House, which is a brand of co-working spaces in Northeast Ohio, really around the Cleveland metro area. We just target suburbs. And we do have 2 locations, and we were negotiating a third. It is signed for, and we are getting started on that. Interesting that the partnering with chambers came up in the thread because we actually, on our third location, are partnering with a chamber. So that's a part of the conversation, obviously, I can help add to. We also had something interesting happen recently with the chamber we're a part of for the location I'm currently at right now, where I guess it was giving us discounts on health insurance for our employees. And those that run it, like, we're not the founders. Our founders just right on the other side of the wall here. But we didn't realize that we were getting a benefit like that. So kind of weighing the pros and cons of being a part of a chamber here as well. But yeah, so third location coming, and our second location that was kind of failing with our building owner problem I've been telling you guys about. The meeting I just came from is actually, it was partner with our partner, which is the city, our partner who will be the new building owner, and also another nonprofit in that city that wants to be a part of it. So it was a big meeting with all of us sitting down, and it looks like the city is going to give us the startup capital to renovate that building so that we can go ahead and get in there and get things started. So, or a portion of it, Eddie's saying. So yeah, so those are our updates.
Congrats. Those are some huge updates. And I'm excited to hear more about what that means for you and what you can tell us about your experience with the chamber as well. It seems like we're going to have a chamberful conversation for sure. Great. And Christy, you as well are, actually, I'm sorry, we're going to do Maurice, and then Christy, I know you've got a chamber conversation as well, but first let's check in with Maurice. Maurice, how's it going?
Going well. For those who don't know me, my name is Maurice, based out of Canton, Michigan. It's about half an hour east of Detroit. I don't have a space yet, but I'm looking to open one. I'm still in kind of research and exploration mode. So building community, getting to know the folks around here. I've met with a couple other co-working spaces around. I actually just met with one this morning, Tony, someone knew you. His name was John Newman.
Yeah.
So he was familiar with New York Cities and talked about you a little bit. So it was nice to see, like, the community of co-working goes beyond. So a lot of just meeting with different co-working spaces that are somewhat in the area. We're all about 20 to 30 minutes away from each other. And just kind of exploring what I can offer and what it takes to open the space.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Maurice. And Christy, how are things going up where you are? I'm excited to talk about your booth, where maybe we can synthesize all of the knowledge that we can share in the group here. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What's going on in your world? You're on mute. Hang on. Let me unmute you. We might be playing mute battle. Okay, you're good.
That was fun. Mute battle. I'm Christy Alexander, and I have a co-working space in upstate New York, specifically in Glens Falls, New York. For those of you who aren't familiar with upstate New York, we're near Lake George. We're between Lake George and Saratoga. And it's a smallish space, a little over 2,100 square feet. And we've been open a little over 2 months now. And things are going very well. We've had a lot of positive feedback, positive responses. It's a lot of the value and encourage membership.
Awesome. Okay. Lots going on. Everybody's very busy. This is very exciting. It's time. It's the autumn. So I'm into it. So I want to do my little tour of the space here, especially while it's still pretty quiet in the morning. And then we can discuss whatever comes up on the tour. And then we can talk Chamber of Commerce and everyone's different questions and experiences. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Yeah? Okay. All right. I'm going to do something a little risky here. I'm going to take out my phone and I'm going to try to switch over to the phone and go on our little tour. Okay. Camera 1, camera 2. Okay. Okay, so we are in. Oh, this is going to be weird. I'm going to turn off this camera. Okay. Here we go. Hi. So we're in Office Nomads in Seattle. It has been here since November 1st, 2007, and it is an amazing space. It was created by two founders, Jacob Sales and Susan Dorsch, and I'm in one of their conference rooms. So like that's their logo on the floor, and they have a really cool kind of little like a library type thing in their conference room, which I really like. It's actually very carefully curated, and it's got like they have a little book about them, which is cool. And there's actually a book that I co-authored, which is nice to see in their space. And other kind of like co-working things. So I just like that there's like, first of all, this bookcase is really neat, this shallow bookcase, but I like how it kind of provides some context for the space and just gives it kind of some extra meaning. I don't think I've ever even noticed that there's like microscopes in these upper shelves and all this stuff. But one of the things that I think is actually super useful for you guys is this little stand-up thing. I'm going to put this on the other camera so I can point at it right. Okay, so this is literally just kind of a little plastic stand, but it's got the "We love it when you share your experience on Facebook, mention us on Twitter, review us on Yelp, tag us on Instagram, and share your experience on goodcoworking.com. I don't know if that site's still super active, but I just like that they have these around the space because it's so easy. But the value of people leaving you a review, and I would say specifically Yelp, Facebook, and what they don't have here is Google Maps. I would put Google Maps number one by far. If you can start accumulating a bunch of reviews on Google Maps, you're going to be in really good business. Okay, we're going to point back to me, and I'm going to leave the conference room for a minute, and I might kind of lower my voice a little bit, but just hang with me here. Okay, so this is the space. That's Mike.
Hi guys.
Mike's running the show here. Mike, say hi to everybody. We've got about 7 people from around the country who are tuning in. Yeah.
Well, we're happy to have 28 add-ons with us today. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Very good. I'm just going to take them on a kind of quick tour. I'll try to be discreet. Okay. We've got a puzzle, which I have to say, so we're at the entrance now, and just the idea of being able to kind of walk in and have this kind of couchy, loungy area right when you walk in the door. And actually, I'm going to back out for a second so you can see. So we're kind of like, this is the entrance, right? And we've got the emergency contact information right on the outside of the door with phone numbers of everybody who might be able to help you. Super, super valuable. Obviously, if somebody's locked out when they shouldn't be. But what I like is that when you first come in, the first thing you see is this big, long table. And this is where the staff hangs out. So the staff doesn't have their own sequestered desk area. They actually have a big mutual table, which is a win for a lot of reasons. For one, the staff doesn't have to kind of feel like they're kind of off on their own. They can have people to come hang out with. But there's the sense of being really welcoming. So like when I come in, I don't know where to sit because I'm a guest. And I can just walk in and it's like, oh, this guy seems friendly. And I could just sit right here and work. And so that's what I do when I'm here. I come and work at this table. And then there's this couch here and people are hanging out talking to each other. And there's just these like very subtle invitations to create community and connection, right? There's a chess set and there's an octopus that, oh my God, it's an octopus charger. That's right. I have no idea what's going on here. I think this might actually be homemade. Yeah, look, this is a homemade octopus charger. Love it. Little details like that. People just get people to really love it. These guys, Jen, you'll remember this. This is their Co-worky Awards for their best furry coworker, Buckley, and their best furniture solution. So I actually presented those awards in New York at the conference. Lots of plants. I like that they have the membership information just on a board right here. So it's just right in front, very easy for people to see and not have to ask about. They have a community beer fund. And when the fund hits $20, they buy beer with it. Everybody has fun. And look, there's actually 20 in it right now. So we're coming up on the next beer run, which is cool. And just some really neat statements of their values on these big postcards, which, again, just kind of really underscoring the attitude and the vibe of this place. And I'll show you some other signage that they have that actually really embodies that as well. Okay, so back to the entrance. We've got an emergency exit map laminated on the door, right by the door. That emergency contact info, again, on the inside of the door. And we have a member photo wall, and you can see the members of the team. And then I like that they're just kind of using this, like, you know, kind of marker on it, so you could just snap a picture and print it. Makes it a lot easier to, you know who's here. Maybe you've met someone and you forgot their name. It happens all the time. Makes it a lot less scary to keep talking to them if you can refresh yourself on their names. And look, they have a separate board specifically to highlight the new members, which I think is just so brilliant. So now we know who to be on the lookout for over here. And, oh yeah, they have the furry friend section. You'll note that they've put it at, like, the same level as the dogs so that they can look at the pictures, I guess, and get to know the fellow members of the community, which I think is delightful. You've got art on the walls, a whiteboard specifically for ideas for the space, robots. The Wi-Fi password is all lowercase, no spaces, which is hilarious. This is
that Wi-Fi password.
Yeah, do it. This is their sophisticated conference room booking system. It's a whiteboard with times, and you put your name on it when you need it, and that's it, right? And it works. It's been that way for like 10 years, and it just works. They've got some guidelines, right? Limit the meeting room use. Done early, cleaned it up, tidy up, etc. So you can see why I'm friends with these guys, right? Like, they have really cool resources and signage and things like that. Okay, so then in the kitchen area, this there is the big top calendar of stuff that's going on upcoming this week. They've got their show and tell Friday at 4:30. Very cool. And just other stuff that's coming up in the community, which is nice. And then they have a "What did you get done today?" whiteboard in the kitchen, which is neat. Again, this is clearly like super DIY, right? It's just melon painter's tape, but it's just a nice way for people to be able to share what they're celebrating, which I'm a big fan of. I didn't plan this, so I don't remember what else I wanted to show you. But oh yes, this is very important. So this is across the hall from the restrooms, and there's just kind of this little hallway. But they have all of the press that they've been in. It's not, black, like cardboard paper, but these guys have been in some serious press, right? They were in Entrepreneur magazine. And they had like a major feature, like this is photos of them in their space in the October 2009 issue of Entrepreneur magazine. So I honestly, I have the same press clippings from my own space, because Newark City was mentioned in this article somewhere as well. But my press is in my closet. Oh yeah, there's the mention of Newark City, which is really cool. So taking the time to print out and mount your press as you accumulate it, I think is just super important. because, hey, this place is nice and all, but did you know that it's also actually pretty famous? That's pretty cool. Yeah, and then there's some cool co-working stuff. There's like a poster that they got from a conference, and more press. And I think they have some really nice stuff in the restrooms. Let's see. They use, hey everybody, they use cloth towels, which I think is fascinating. And they have like a chalkboard on the back of the door, and they'll have like a prompt, like most popular mug, and the one with the ponies. You know, just like cultivating this real sense of banter and belonging and togetherness. And yeah, let's see what else. Yeah, stickers. Okay, I'm gonna come back into the conference room where we can talk about everything we just saw. This is it. I'm gonna just borrow this for a second. Okay. So they have this signage elsewhere in the space, but it's a "We Believe," and it's just some statements. I don't know if you can read this or not. It's tiny on my screen, but we believe in co-working without a filter, or community strong and diverse. We don't create community, we create a strong platform on which community grows, right? So all these values, just the iconography and just the fact that they even bothered creating this thing, I think creates this really strong sense that you're in a place that is meaningful, right? This isn't just an office rental facility. This is a place where people hang out and help each other. So, huge fan of this place. It is Office Nomads. It is one of my favorite co-working spaces in the world. It has been for a long time. And that is my tour. How'd you guys like that? What landed for you in that experience? I need a break from talking. Somebody talk.
I feel like there's a lot in there that really that really is culture based. Like we have a culture of I like having the values and what we believe and stuff like that around, which kind of says this is our culture, this is who we are. But then there's a lot of other things that kind of reinforce that. All the whiteboards, the little lounge area. It really seemed to all kind of, anywhere you looked in the space, it seemed like you had that that kind of positive culture, and I think it really tied together really well. I mean, that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, I really like the openness of like the staff area, where as soon as you come through the door, right, they're right there to kind of greet you. Because I've seen that happen a couple of times. When you're new to a space, you don't know where to go, what to do, where to start. So it's kind of hard to miss that table, and it's kind of hard for the staff to miss you coming in the door. So I really like that aspect of it. That was really awesome.
Yeah, I find it interesting because I think from a staff perspective, I could see it being challenging if you want to be able to focus on work or whatever. But really, you know, somebody who's sitting by the door has to assume that they're not going to be able to focus on work. And the traditional receptionist desk has this connotation of, well, you got to come here and, you know, pass through me as a gatekeeper. But then also there's no sense of welcome, like feel free to stick around and hang out with me. It's basically like, you know, come do business and then get out of here, right? There's no sense of welcoming there. So I do like the idea that you can, especially as a new person in a co-working community, you know, like when you're the first person in the room, that is intimidating. So to feel like you can sit alongside that person, and you know, this is early in the day. Later in the day, there's going to be a bunch of people around that table. Big culture win. Anything else? Anything somebody wants to steal? Oh, so go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, so there's the whiteboard. Sorry, I wrote everything down that I left. The whiteboard I liked in I think it was a kitchen, where it had like you were what you actually accomplished that day. And I want to steal that because a lot of us all talk to each other each day about, like, you know, what podcasts we listen to or what we read or just, you know, family stuff. But so many people in our spaces are doing like crazy, incredible things, and half the time they don't talk about it. So I really like that for everyone to kind of like check in and be like, oh my gosh, look at what, you know, Jeff or like Jay accomplished today. I want to steal that. I think that's amazing.
It becomes even more powerful if you add a like some kind of ceremonial time to compile the list. You know, so if you've got a, you know, like a weekly happy hour, it can be a great time to roll out the board and say, okay, what did everybody accomplish this week? And you go like point to somebody, right? Because, you know, a lot of times I think people don't feel inclined to use the thing, especially when it's been sitting in the kitchen for years. And so, you know, but at the same time, there's a bunch of people here working on cool stuff. So I think a lot of times you'll find people are doing amazing things, but they're not, I don't want to say they're shy about it, but they almost like don't think to bother to share. And so if you can find the right opportunity to kind of nudge people, you know, through some kind of a gathering, you know, if you have a breakfast thing or a lunch thing or whatever, to just ask people, hey, what did you get done? Add it to the board, you know, and it's amazing. And I've done events specifically, like you guys are familiar with work sprints, which we've talked about in the past. I've done work sprints where we have a live to done list that we all like update online, and it's just like a, you know, like a shared document that was like a giant text file. But the game was every time you accomplished anything, you added it to the list, and the list became like 100 items in like a couple of hours, you know, and you read through it and you also get a snapshot into what people are up to and what they're, you know, what kind of work they're doing. And it's so fun. I want to revisit the to-done list. I think there's a lot of fun to be had in that, specifically in a group setting. So, awesome. Love it, Jody. If you do that, please send pictures. And in general, if you do fun stuff like the stuff I just pointed out, would love to see it. And, you know, makes good social media fodder too. Cool. Any other kind of impressions? Anything else that people see here that they want to steal, or that are inspiring them to do something similar? Well, I'm very grateful to have had a chance to share this space with you. It has been an inspiration to me since before I opened my own space. So it's nice to pass that along to you. And unless anybody has any other last minute things to say about this topic, let's take the remaining time to talk Chamber of Commerce related stuff. So I think maybe we can start with Christy, since Christy, you've got this kind of really specific item that that is coming up. So do you want to just give us a little bit more context on your thinking behind this booth and kind of, you know, what your questions are and how we might be able to help?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're the only co-working space in town, and we have been open for just a little over 2 months. And we're going to be part of the 2018 Business Expo that's hosted by our local chamber, which is in a being held at the hotel that's just a block away from us. So I definitely want to be part of it. We're going to have a table set up and, of course, our information displayed. And I just want to be able to creatively communicate who we are, what co-working is, and also, in addition to that, try to communicate that we're open to forming some business partnerships with these local businesses. I mostly feel like I'm lacking the creativity to be able to say, hey, we're here, we're cool, we're an awesome space, this is what we are, and come on over and work with us, or tell your friends about us and tell other business owners about us. And then, you know, it will be open to the public for 4 hours. So, you know, trying to reach that person that works from home or that local startup and communicating to them, we're here for you. We've got all these resources. We've got all of this set up here for you. Come and be part of this community.
Cool. And how are they how is it being promoted? Like what kinds of people are you expecting are going to come to something like this?
So it's being promoted, being put on through the chamber. It's being promoted through the chamber, through the business community. In addition to that, it will be promoted to through the local community college and, of course, the nonprofit organizations in the area.
Gotcha. Okay, so you've got college students coming through, and you've got kind of people who are within the reach of these other organizations coming through. The reason I'm asking is because there's different kinds of promoting that we can be doing, and the audience is of paramount importance, of course. So, there's probably not that much that we can do to control how many of these people are actual prospective immediate customers today.
Right.
Like it would be nice if we can get some. And so, we obviously should be prepared to do that. But we also want to think about how can we educate people so that they understand what it is, so that they can help us find the people who are the right people. And so it might be that you're talking to someone and most of the people you talk to are not prospective members of your space,
Right.
but they are members of this community, and they will be in a position to help other people to understand that you exist and that why you're valuable, and they will be in a position to help you to better know where there are people who are your prospective customers and how to find them. And it might just be, my wife works from home, she might be interested in this, let me take your card, right? Or something like that. So those kinds of things are, it's important to have in mind, is just, thinking about how to not necessarily try to just recruit customers, but to recruit evangelists.
Right.
What's your relationship been like to the chamber itself?
Well, the chamber is right across the street from us. And I keep in close communication with the chamber. I email them at least weekly, and here's this item. What do you guys think about putting this in the newsletter? I actually have become good friends with one of the girls that works at the chamber. She's training for a half marathon to raise money, to raise awareness for a disease that a friend of her daughter's is experiencing. So we've been running together, and she's been over to my house. So I'm at least a couple times a week, I'm having conversation and connection with the individuals from the chamber.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I've always been kind of curious how the chambers work, and they seem like they're kind of a construct from an older time, and they still have a role to play, but they might be in a state of transition in terms of figuring out what that role is. In an age where there's so many other resources at their disposal. And I know Melanie's not here, but she had mentioned in our online discussion that she actually was met with hostility, that the folks at the chamber felt threatened by what she was building, maybe because what building could actually achieve something that they're supposed to be achieving, but better.
Sure. So I have to say that our chamber has been through transition over probably the past 5 years, and a couple of those years have been without leadership altogether. So I definitely can understand what she may be feeling, and that reception that she may have received is certainly not very far-fetched from some experiences that I've had with them prior to being a business owner. I will say that the new director at the chamber is extremely positive and has been to the events that I've held, the Blueberry Muffin meet and greet and so forth. And we've had a number of conversations, and so I'm friends with all of them on Facebook, and there have been a couple of them that will change their profile picture, but in the background they've got my entrance that's got my logo and Work Smart right above my doors. And it was just kind of funny the way he positioned his own profile picture and the Tim in shades with Work Smart right above his head. So they're huge advocates. I really can't say enough positive about them.
I love it. I'm glad to hear it. It seems like it could be very, very kind of hit or miss or very region specific.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, I guess, taking it over to Justin, who is joining this organization in your area. What's your impression like? I mean, how's all these stories landing for you so far?
So I apologize. I did have to step away for a moment, but so I missed part of that discussion. So what over here in Kernville, it's a smaller town, it's a smaller chamber of commerce, and there aren't very many forms of local government here. So the Chamber of Commerce over the years has kind of skewed to be less of your traditional Chamber of Commerce, and has kind of started doing a bunch of things that aren't very typical for chambers of commerce to do. But and there's some things going on that it's not very it's the chamber can be a little bit dysfunctional sometimes, but so I joined the chamber in part to try to help with some of that. I joined as a member when we first started, but I also joined the board just recently to try and help with some of these things. And also because I very strongly feel that the co-working space, especially in this community, can be a force for good for the community, for the local economic situation, for our youth that are kind of, in a rural area, graduating from high school here, you don't really understand the opportunities that are available where you could still live and work in this area. So I feel like as Kernville Co-work, what our charter and mission is very closely aligned with with the common goals of the Chamber of Commerce. So part of my goal for joining the board was to kind of help convince the board that this is an area that we need to move together in as a community. We need to kind of embrace these things and not just kind of do the business as usual kind of thing. So so far it's not a lot of great impact. I mean, the chamber did have an event here. They basically hosted a mixer here at the Co-work, which was a phenomenal event and gave us a lot of publicity. But what I really want to do going forward is to start having things like have the town of Kernville promote like doing corporate offsites here and team building events, and have the co-work be basically the center of that. So you come in, you bring your team for the week. They have desks to work out of. They have meeting space. And then they take off in the middle of the day and go rafting down the river, like stuff like that. So that's kind of, and the board is very receptive to that. So that looks like something we might be pushing for over, hopefully by next summer, we should have something pretty solid there.
And so just in terms, because we got two people with us right now on the video chat who are working with or planning on doing more work with chambers of commerce, what can you tell us about what you think you'd like? What does it take to have a successful interaction with a chamber? Like what's to be expected that you need to kind of anticipate in order to be able to be effective?
And that's kind of a hard question for me because, like I said, our chamber isn't very typical. It's a small area, and it's and so what we have to focus on is a lot different than chambers in larger metropolitan areas. I mean, I think though in general, anytime you're interacting with another entity, you kind of have to focus on where are the win-win situations. What can you do that is going to provide value for you, for your co-working members, but also for the chamber and the chamber members. So I like the idea that somebody had mentioned on the email thread about maybe having like a chamber membership add-on for co-working space, things like that. That really are kind of a win-win. Or in my case, what I'm really trying to go for is to try to have either the chamber or maybe the co-work itself offer these packages where you have these teams come in and maybe they're renting desk space from me, but they're in that part of the package deal. They're getting lodging from the hotel that's a chamber member, and they're doing rafting with the rafting company that's a chamber member. So you've got these kind of win-win situations anywhere where you can see that kind of synergy. I feel like just approaching it from that perspective and really selling them on how much more effective the chamber and the co-working space can be if they team up and partner together.
Yeah. I like the idea of looking for every possible kind of intersection point for collaboration. And I guess that involves really getting to know the other people who are involved and what their interests are, which we, always come back to in a lot of our conversations. So cool. In terms of all of this, I guess I want to just ask Jaudia if for you, as you're kind of facing this relationship, is there anything in particular you're trying to figure out about how to most effectively work with these folks, or anything that you're hearing that is landing for you?
Yeah, so we've had 3 different experiences with 3 different chambers, and they've all been really different. So like one just like membership based and not much of a partnership at all. One more like relationship based, where we do like events with them and like are in their space a lot, just because of our lack of space in that particular location. And then this third one is like an actual partnership, but kind of like what Justin was saying, this chamber is not like typical. They have kind of morphed with another economic development organization. So they're kind of just like a super nonprofit there in that city. So they themselves are now opening a co-working space in partnership. So it's been difficult, but also interesting kind of navigating it and working with them, because they just, we're not a nonprofit. So they have a lot of meetings about a lot of things. And we're more like have one meeting and a very action-based, which to our detriment sometimes. So it's been interesting kind of like dealing with just the way things work, like decision-wise, and just the many hoops that we have to jump through so far. But I think it'll be interesting kind of moving forward and seeing how the partnership flourishes, because they're dealing with main like day-to-day operations of the actual space, and we're providing a lot of like behind the scenes support. So I guess I'll have a lot more questions as this unfolds. It's just been kind of just getting it started, which has taken a very long time because of all their many meetings.
Yeah.
No major questions or problems on it at this moment, but certainly I'm sure I'll have a lot moving forward.
Well, I hope it's worthwhile. I feel like probably the biggest risk when it comes to Chamber of Commerce type things is just that it can be, you don't want it to be a waste of time, obviously, but if they're committing to doing something like a space, all the better if you can be working alongside them for mutual benefit. And, it seems like very wise for them to listen to you as kind of the established experts. And so I'm excited for that. It really does sound like your job becomes more and more about really understanding the different stakeholders involved and what their interests are and their foibles and their constraints. You've already recognized, that nonprofits end up having to do a lot of meetings. So the more that you're able to understand the cultural differences or the institutional differences and navigate them, that's kind of valuable throughout life. It's like a life skill. Now you'll know from here on kind of how to deal with people in that realm, which I'm sure will help serve in the future. Cool. What else? Well, we got a few more minutes left. Does anybody have any kind of random last things that they want to share or ask?
I'm curious about something. And don't misunderstand where I'm coming from. Because it's not that I don't enjoy offering get-togethers and work sprints and all of this stuff, and I'm having tons of fun, but how much free is too much free? Because a lot of people are asking for free stuff, free space, free co-working, free meetings. And none of these things are free to me, of course, because every time you have something, you've got food and drink involved, and you're opening the space and you're providing the Wi-Fi. And how much free is too much free? And I was curious, with Jen, how much free stuff does she anticipate offering? And with all of you, when do you say no? And when, a networking event in the space is really exciting because that's more people coming in and seeing the space. And I do believe, and especially in this circumstance, seeing is believing. And I've had a lot of feedback saying that, oh my goodness, your space, it's so much different than I thought or anticipated. But, these individuals that want to come in and hold this networking 101, this networking event, this is a client acquisition for them. And they will directly be impacted financially from this. Whereas with me, it's networking. So maybe some of them would be people that work from home or, startups, entrepreneurs, but I don't have any control over how much of them, how many individuals that would actually, become members would attend this.
Yeah. I'm hearing what you're saying. There's like a sweet balance to be had because you don't want to be totally restrictive, but you don't want to be totally open and give everything away either, right?
Right.
So there's kind of like a happy rhythm to be found of, knowing that there are some things that you're giving away, but that you're doing so because you're looking to generate interest in the other items in your inventory. And so finding where to draw those lines is something that's just going to take some time. And it sounds like maybe you've been erring on the side of giving stuff away to generate interest, which makes sense in the early phase. But then over time, we want to scale that back and start saying, okay, time for you guys to pony up, right? So in my mind, there's just kind of a distribution of like, there's your free, right, letter F, and then there's like paid programs that are maybe free or discounted if you're a member, and then there's member-only stuff. And so then you think about, okay, what's the thing that's the free thing? Well, the free thing could be a monthly happy hour, or it could be, a breakfast or whatever it is. But you really allocate that as a free thing, and you've, decided by whatever machinations that is a good potential starting point for onboarding a new prospective member. But then we want, ideally for this, to be a teaser to get people excited for these.
Right.
And these things, like a work sprint should be, in my model, not free, or it should be, a member-specific program. Now, it could be that when somebody shows up who's not a member and they show up to your free event, that you tell them, hey, we do these work sprints. They're every Friday at 10 or whatever it is. And it's for members. Oh, that sounds great. I'd be interested to join. Well, I'd love for you to come by to the next one. You could be my guest. Oh, wow. Okay, great. Right. So then that person comes, and then maybe they even come to that for free, but only as your guest. And the implication is, for the next one, that's what membership here is, right? The same way that a gym does it, where maybe you get a free day pass when when you're visiting for the first time, and we do that sometimes. Sometimes spaces offer a free day pass, but instead to say, hey, I'm going to offer you a free like class, right? A free experience, or even a discount, something like that. If you want to be generous, you might not. You might just say, hey, you should join for this, and pony up some cash for it. And so it sounds like maybe what you would want to do is step back and look at what you're currently offering and how to redistribute it, to make some of it free and some of it behind this kind of member paywall type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Do you have a sense of what that could look like for you?
I do, and I watched the Mole Members September webinar, and you were talking about that same idea, and I picked up on it there, and so I completely understand that. And with the nonprofits, I think it was Jen that had mentioned trying to find local businesses that will sponsor a nonprofit desk, which is really awesome. We have a library just up the street that has a couple of really fabulous conference or meeting rooms. Yet I constantly am asked by nonprofits, can we meet in your space for free? Will you allow coworkers here for free because we're a nonprofit? And my response to that has been, very nicely, but I'll just lay it out there for you. I don't compete with these spaces that offer free conference room, and that's not my competition. So I've opted to, say that's no. No.
Yeah.
And one of them was like the local senior center, and I'm not discounting word of mouth advertising, but of the local seniors, I will not get directly any coworkers from them.
Yeah.
From that market.
Yeah. No, you know what? And it's. I don't think it's wrong at all to have that attitude about it. Honestly, people can get abusive of your offering to just kind of come in and say, well, we're a nonprofit, so give us stuff, right. And I think it can be highly disrespectful. And nonprofits that rely on people's generosity with that kind of attitude of entitlement, I don't think are embodying the values behind what they're doing. And look, I run a nonprofit that is grossly underfunded. I know what that's like. We don't have resources, but at the same time, I don't expect anybody to give me something that they rely on to make a living. Now, if you were WeWork and you had gazillions of dollars, then I would say, well, sure, you should be able to allocate some of your space to give away. But you're not. You're you, and you need to pay your bills.
Right.
So, you might be able to offer them a deal. You might be able to offer them a discount for a limited time or something like that. Or you could say, well, let's find a way to collaborate. What are you guys up to? What are you trying to achieve in the future that we might be to help you with? But just that straight up transaction of just give us something for free, or to be able to say, well, we do allocate a certain amount of time for local organizations, but we ask for something in return. And so, it might be that they, help throw you an event once a quarter, or, or that they write you nice reviews online and take pictures and send you case studies of the impact that your donation is generating, but there's an application process, and, we only accept one per quarter or one per year or whatever it is. But honestly, like, how many square feet are you?
2140.
2140. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I would even say, like, yeah, maybe that's something we'll do in January. Check back in 2019.
Okay. That's another good
or even to be able to turn it around to them and say, hey, look, I know what it's like to have not enough resources because I'm starting a small business that has tremendous costs.
Right.
So I'd love to be in a place where I'm resourced enough that I can be in a position to donate some of my services that cost me money to great organizations like yours. So if there's anything that you can do to help me to get this place to a place of profitability, then that's really going to pave the way to my being in a better position to be able to support you.
Okay, I like that.
and stop being entitled jerks. Yeah,
That way, because it's gotten to it's happened enough that this morning when I was making my bed and thinking about it, I almost started crying. I was like, what everybody wants something for free. How, like, I'm a single mom, how am I going to support my kid if in keep this business going if I keep giving everybody stuff for free? And then when you say no, well, why don't you? What do you mean, why don't I?
they have a business to run.
Right.
Yeah, Christy, I feel very passionate about this because I experienced the same pain. And running a co-working space is going to bring you up against some challenges and some lessons to learn in your life.
Right.
And this is clearly, it seems to me to be an invitation to you to practice that boundary setting and that valuing of yourself and your contribution. And, you know, a lot of people get into co-working because they want to help and they're generous souls. But if we don't account for our own needs, then people won't respect us. We will be hurt and burnt out, and then we won't do this anymore. And it will be to the disservice of our people. So, you know, I'm not advocating for selfishness. You know, you having your needs met will be in the interest of every organization in your city, including this nonprofit, you know. But they need to know what's what. And look, like, you know, there's no need to let them guilt you. You're running a small business by yourself, and you've taken on a lot of risk, and you're dealing with a lot of stuff. So, like, people should cut you some damn slack.
Thank you.
I definitely agree with the respect portion, because, like, if you keep giving away stuff for free, then everyone just want to think, oh, I can always come back and get more.
Right.
But that only works short term, right? You're only helping them short term. Because if your business goes under, then they also lose out, and the whole community loses out.
Right.
So being able to say no now, they may be hurt about it, like, oh, why didn't you give us something for free? We're a nonprofit. But if you can only do that one time now, versus if they wait 2 years, you can do this like every month for them. Like,
Right.
long term, that helps them a lot more than they might realize short term.
And you can, and there's graceful ways of communicating these things. So you can say, you know, hey, I really want to help you. And in order to be in a position to help you, I need to make sure this business doesn't go out of business.
Right.
And so, is there something that you can do to help me get more people in this place? Because if there is, I'd be very grateful to you. I'd be grateful to you in such a way that I'd be, you know, in a position to help you out with your needs. So if you come up with some way that you think you might be able to help me get some more people in here, I would be very happy to talk to you about that. Otherwise, you know, next year I'll be looking into developing a program to help with nonprofits once I have the resources to be able to do so.
Yeah, I like that. That's what I needed help with. Definitely, Tony. Thank you.
Yeah, get it. I like it. And I'll just say one last thing on this too, is that creating that line of generosity is really important, because if you've got 2 free things a month and 8 paid things, whatever it is, like the distribution, if it feels good, then you can really, really dedicate yourself to being generous when you've committed to it. So if you say, you know what, once a month, I'm throwing a blueberry muffin party, and it's the best blueberry muffin party, everyone's going to have so much fun, I'm buying the muffins, and I'm just going to be generous, generous, generous. So when somebody asks, you know, hey, can I come experience your space for free? You say, you know what, you absolutely can. 4th Friday of every month, I give away all the blueberry muffins in town, and everyone has so much fun. That's when I'm welcoming non-customers. And it's going to be a great time. You really should come. I have so much to offer you because I'm so generous during that time. So you really just direct people to, like, highlight, hey, this is when everybody's welcome. This is when I'm at my most generous. You know, and then I think that can help you also, as opposed to, like, when I've been in the situation like you've described where I'm kind of giving away everything. when I'm kind of giving away everything, I kind of resent everybody the whole time. You know, like I'm kind of feeling this drain of like, okay, well, I'm doing this for these freeloaders, right? But there is this sense of like, no, I can be generous here, and this is when I'm taking care of business. Or when I'm inviting special guests, people who I really think could become customers. So, yeah. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Best of luck with that, Christy. Please keep us posted on how it goes. Let us know how the booth goes.
Yes, that's next month. So if anybody thinks of ideas for that booth, I'm open.
All right. Yeah. Well, my main thing is educate people, you know, like as to what this is, because most of the people have no idea. So having like, you know, some kind of like, you know, what the heck is co-working, right? And then an invitation. So education, information collecting, get everyone's email that you possibly can, brutally, like as you know, give me your card, give me your email, whatever, and then invitation. Invite them to the next Blueberry Muffin thing, right?
Okay.
And they should maybe come away with a flyer that's like Blueberry Muffin thing. It's on Friday, September 20, whatever, right?
Right.
So education, information, invitation. Oh,
Great.
there you go.
Awesome.
Yay. All right, Christy, best of luck. Keep up the great work. I'm excited for you.
Thanks.
And yeah, and thanks everybody for joining, and thanks Maurice for sticking around. And
No problem.
we'll talk in 6 days.
See you guys later. Bye, Lauren.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.